we haven't gotten into this, but if
Mhm.
people didn't know by now or haven't realized that you're good at this, you've had a podcast before.
Yes, I
And I
have.
feel like that somehow got glossed over in this whole professional journey. So uh, let's get
Yeah.
into that because I don't know. It might make sense that I might be interested in you being a podcaster, considering what we're doing right now.
Yes, yes. No, I mean, it was a really cool journey. It was kind of an experiment to start. A friend of mine that I knew through yoga, we wanted a project. We didn't know at first if it was going to be a short, a video. We wanted to interview people just on their different opinions on similar topics. So, we were going to kind of start with love was one of our main focus topics in the beginning. And we were like, well, how do we, do it? Do we want people from different countries, different ages? And um, just the four women that it ended up becoming a podcast was, it just came together. It was kind of crazy. Me and this girl, Erin, started, and then I met her friend at the post office. She commented on my braids. That evening, I ran into her at a coffee shop. I was like, I saw you earlier today. She was like, oh, yeah, your hair was cute. I said something. She was with her family. I met her parents from out of town. So weird. She was the woman my friend wanted me to meet to join our podcast. And we met randomly. So then when we connected, we were like, oh my God, I already met you just out in life. It was so bizarre. And then one of my other closest friends, this woman who Yogi has traveled, but is also from New Jersey. I love her vibe. So there was four of us, and I don't like you doing your show and how you have your schedule and flow. I don't know if you can imagine trying to do it within three other people.
Oh
Um,
God. Yeah, scheduling is already a nightmare with just one trying to get one other person. Or just
yeah. So
me trying to get my life in order. Christ, the fact that I have to be organized these days
when
is
am I
crazy. Yeah.
available? Yeah. So it was really cool. It was called Xshared. We still have episodes up on Spotify. Um, and it was a really great experience. I mean, we had just real conversations. We did different experiments. Like, we would have a gratitude practice for a month, and then we'd come back together and kind of talk about our experience with that, how we felt about it. We went through our life kind of looking, knowing that that month we were looking for silver linings in our life. So then the episode would be about silver linings. And I like that we all had different personalities. So sometimes we come in and be like, it was so great. I loved it. And somebody would come in and be like, I didn't find any, or I had a really hard time with this, or I felt resistance around it. So I really tried to also think about what people are really going through. So it wasn't just like, how do I want to say this? Finding the balance between like being positive and wanting to put that light out there, but then also realizing like, hey, people are going through losing a job or their kid just got diagnosed with cancer. So how do you have a gratitude practice and deal with some real life stuff? So we really tried to cross those barriers and combine the two in conversation. Um, so yeah, it was a great experience. One of our co-hosts moved early on in the process. So not only were we dealing with schedules, but also not being in the same room. And now, COVID, here we are doing this, different time zones and things. But it was a challenge in the beginning. But I feel like we really respected each other. I think I learned how to work with other people and respect just different opinions in a work environment. Try not to put others down in the process, with different ideas coming in. Um, but yeah, it was a really cool experience. I'm glad I did it. That being said, it was also at the height of my cyst on my vocal cords. So, dude, I go back and I hear episodes, and I was trying to teach 5 classes a day, come back, have this energy, be live, on this podcast, and I hear it in my voice, and I'm like, man, I didn't know, but it was pretty rough.
Right. Well, I mean, it's wild because, like, you're telling me about you having this cyst, and I'm like, I just brought you onto a thing where we're just supposed to aimlessly talk for a while. But so you guys basically kind of just had like a round table. Did you do any guests or anything like that?
Yeah, so we had talked about that, and we had also talked about having this idea of like breakout episodes, or maybe there'd be two of us interviewing someone else. So it was interesting. There aren't a lot of podcasts out there with four hosts,
Right.
and we just thought like having guests, that's a lot of voices, that's a lot of space. So we never got to that point. It was kind of interesting just being able, our angle and our goal was more like us having these experiments and different things that then became the topic. So it was more of, like you said, a roundtable of us sharing and coming at it from our own experiences.
Was it just an audio format? Did you guys do any video or anything like that?
Yeah, it was just audio.
Yeah, there's a part of me that like I kind of was leaning like audio would be just it would be easier if I only did audio. It would just be so much easier, but like truly as a podcast consumer, I basically live in this office. Like I do my work here,
It's
but
a
then
great
like
space.
I it's
You look good. You look good in your setup.
thank you. Well the funny part, and we'll circle back. Um I had this built like long ago. This is my like my vocal recording booth. Like I do music in here. I've had this office kind of all set up, and the idea was like this is where I'm going to get my work done. But back in the long ago, whenever I would actually have to go to an office, I would come home and like the last thing that I wanted to do was sit in another office. I'd
Mhm.
been in an office environment. I didn't want to come and sit here. I would like grab my laptop, just take it over to the couch, and I'd do, my startup work over there. And that was kind of like how I went about, just navigating doing two jobs at once. And then the lockdown happened. And all of a
Mm.
sudden, I had this office that I had built and like thoughtfully built. Like I have two workstations. I have the one that I'm on, and then I have this one behind me uh, that I can like just be juggling so many other things. And I actually have a third one that I don't have set up that I can if I need to. So I like have like a full command center here. Was totally ready to just bring it all home. Like I'm built to work at home.
Mm.
Like I have a better setup at home than
Yeah.
I do in my office, but like it's a
You're
great
like, COVID, let's go.
right. Uh
I'm ready.
but it put it all to the test. It was like my proof of concept, right? I had to like once COVID hit and I had to go home, then I was here, and I just had to see whether or not this worked out well. And it turned out like I felt very creative here. Like even after the workday was over, I never really wanted to leave here. Like this was like I stay in this area most of the day. I'll probably be here, I don't know, anywhere from 12 hours, 12 to 15 hours a day. Like I've spent entire days here just doing work or whatever. But like I consume, I consume podcasts via video. I watch them on YouTube for the most part.
Okay.
And for me to have a podcast, it seems, I guess if we're speaking to authenticity, it would seem inauthentic to me to have my own podcast that isn't in the way that I like to consume it the most.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
I
What
do a
about like, do
video.
you ever listen, you said you do more audiobooks and stuff like that. Do you find like, do you listen more when you're on the go, or is it something you'd rather, like you're saying you watch a video, do you sit down to like chill and unwind and watch them?
I mean, the funny part is like I don't even really watch them that much, but it's like when I want to get the glance, like I just glance over and see
Yeah.
what their facial expressions are, you get more context with a visual than you do with just the audio. And like I do listen to some audio because, a lot of these people have their podcasts monetized and like the video version, you know, you have to pay for. Free version is on like Spotify or something for free, whatever. So that, which is fine. But yeah, I just feel like there's you know, in general, if I have something that can feed all the senses, then I can understand exactly the context of what's going on in that conversation.
Mm.
So and just sometimes
That's
like
funny.
there.
I feel like I rarely watch as I'm on here. I'm like, I think I listen more. Just like as you were explaining, I'm like, what do I do? Because I think I listen, I'm on the go, or like especially with COVID, LA has been really shut down. So one of the ways I was able to get out of my house, because I paint from here and I teach from here, was just going on walks around my neighborhood. You know, I can keep my mask on. And so I think that really got me into more listening to podcasts. So I guess it depends what I'm doing, because like you said, I like seeing people's energy. So I'm gonna claim that I like both. That I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I feel like anytime I have the option, I watch, and then either I'm not in a position to watch, or there isn't an opportunity to watch. So I'll listen. It's not like I write them off if I can't watch it. Like, you know, a video, fuck off. Like,
I'm out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but did you do any of the editing and anything like that? Like, were you a part of like the recording, the post processing? Like, this is a lot. Like, to do a podcast,
For
like it's
anyone
one.
listening, if you're like, I'm just gonna do a podcast, it is a lot. This man has put in some time to this. It is. I did not. Luckily, one of our co-hosts is an amazing editor, and that was one of the things. Like, it's a lot, and so I think we felt like, man, none of us, the other hosts, were editors, and there's a lot of time, because we had somebody in a different city, just like getting her audio correct and clean with different mics and stuff. It did take some time. So I got to just pop on and say my piece, and then kind of dip out, which didn't feel great. I wish I knew more on that side of things, but it does take a lot of time, and we always had such a good time, and because three of us were in person, we'd end up like joking around, whether we were like sipping wine, having snacks, kind of hanging. So we tried to keep it tight as we moved forward, because we realized like we want her to have to edit the smallest amount
Right.
moving forward. So yeah.
And like for me, like a lot of the reason why I do this podcast, and even earlier on we were just doing the interview series, uh I try not to edit. I try not to like cut any of the conversation out. Just let it be raw. Like, let the mistakes come as they need to. Like, if we say something wild and got to pull it out, like we'll talk about it after, and we'll pull it. We'll agree to pull it out.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I just try to let it roll. And I think there's something. I've actually enjoyed it with other podcasts that I've seen, like where this is legitimately a thing where like we're all dealing with this situation. Like an internet connection might be
Yeah.
bad, or like your microphone might not be working, or like for whatever reason I can't get my freaking camera to turn on. Like all these things, like this is like the even playing field of
Mhm.
COVID right now, is like the virtual space that we have to like navigate through.
The cat face, stuck on the screen, the frozen,
Right.
the person talking forever and they've been muted. But don't you find too, though, just in entertainment and in listening, I feel like we've moved closer towards appreciating those moments where something might be a little messy, because it just makes it human. And you're like, oh, other
Right.
people mess up or appreciate the silly. Not everything's as polished as maybe, before in entertainment or interviews or anything. It's like, I think we enjoy seeing that a little bit.
Yeah, like we're clearly not in a production studio,
Yeah.
like